This is your first like live.
This is my first outside. I mean, I've been a little bit on TikTok, not really, but my first outside my romance addicts, because I've been pretty hidden because of my other, I guess, professional things. And now I'm kind of like, okay, I'm done with my other businesses. So this is all I'm doing. So, this is what I know I'm going to continue to do. And so I don't care as much anymore, but a little part of me though, I will say, is still a tad bit like, should I do that? Because there's some weirdo. I mean, I have some weirdo. You guys probably have the weirdos too, right? We're not live yet, right? We're not live yet. Like, just admit it to me before we go live.
We're live now, babe.
Oh, we are live? Okay, well, there are some people. Okay, well, we're live. Okay, well, Maggie Cole's going to break it down right now because
I was like, I thought I was going live. You were warned.
Okay, all right. I'm going to forgive you, Jen. But, okay, the three of you are going to admit this.
Here we go. Tiffany's on top of it. You are live now. Everyone's saying hello. Here we go.
I think if you've been online for any amount of time, you run into weirdos. You know that they're out there.
It's like just crawling out of the woodwork.
Yeah,
there are weirdos.
Sex books.
Yeah.
People, romance. People think they can say whatever they want. Like,
oh, yeah, they do.
You know, so I'm sure we'll get into some crazy stories with that, but we'll give people some time to hop on. They're all hopping in here. Who are some like romance addicts who are here? I mean, there's Refuge people.
Yeah, where's my romance addicts? Show us. Show us who you are.
Let's see if the internet will be there. Well, Stacy's here. Crystal always has fun people at her house. Oh, this is great. Good stuff. Okay, so here's some people saying hi. Hey, Tiffany's waving. Here we go. All right. Well,
Jessica. Sorry.
Shout out. Welcome everyone to another author hangout at the Book Refuge. Thank you so much to Maggie Cole for joining us. We are super excited to talk about, I mean, all of your books, but I found you through the Mafia Wars, or actually your great PR gal found me and introduced me to Ruthless Stranger, which I then pushed on to all of my friends very quickly. I was like, you want to read about this man? Yes, you do. And it just happened to be in time for the Mafia readathon that we did, which was so much fun. I can't wait to do one of those again. If you guys haven't been to my channel before, for some reason you might not know Tori, who also has a channel, and Crystal. And yeah, we're just going to chat and hang out with Maggie Cole for a little while. And we'll start with some pre-sent questions, and then we'll see what you guys have to say. So,
and I don't know what these are, so this ought to be good. This ought to be good. Should I be scared?
No, I didn't go crazy. Maggie just told us before we went live that she would love you guys to ask the weirdest possible
Go for it. Oh, yeah.
So when we get to that time, you'll be able to. But from Brazil, hello.
Very cool.
So much fun. Great. Well, I didn't mean to talk for you. So, Tori, why don't you tell us about when you read Maggie Cole book?
Well, I mean, you were right. We did the Mafia Romance Readathon at the beginning of June. And I think right before that, you were like, I found this Mafia series that you have to check out. And of course, I added it to my long list of like books that I want to get to, but like I can't read all the books in the world, right? And so when we did that readathon, I put Ruthless Stranger on my TBR because it was just a weekend, so I only had 4 books. And I think for that one, I listened to part audio, and then I read physically part of it. And I enjoyed both. I mean, sometimes audios aren't that great, but for that one, I really liked it. And after I read that one, I took a little bit of break just from a lot of like Mafia books. Yeah. And then I recently read the 2nd and 3rd one. I haven't gotten to the 4th one, and I know your next book comes out tomorrow. But I'm making my way through. So I finished Cruel and Forster, I think like only 2 days ago. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
It's a special kind of torture, and I know I'm just self-aggrandizing myself, but I've read too far ahead, and then I'm like, when does the one I like come out? Because I like them all, but when I read book 5, I was like, fuck, I can't talk about this for like 3 months. When I made my favorite books of the year list, it was on my list, and everyone's like, I can't read this yet. And And I was like, I know, but you will be able to read it. Crystal, do you want to say hi now? Can you speak?
Yeah, I can talk now. My family's here all over the place. I think they just left, so hopefully that will be quieter. So I found you, Maggie, because of Jen, for sure. Jen is so sweet. Whenever she comes across a book that she feels like is perfect for me, she's like, okay, you need to stop everything and read this book. And that's what she did with Ruthless Stranger. And I was like, you are 100% right. It is one of my favorite books of the year. I loved it so much. I listened to the audio and I just adored it. I was captivated from the first page to the last page. I have read books 2 and 3 too, and I also really loved Boris and Nora, but nobody compares to Maxime and Aspen for me. They're just the best.
Well, you're going to have to read Obrecht and Selena because
I'm excited for that
like
one.
My favorite. That's my favorite out of the Ivanovs, which is hard for me to say. It's really hard for me to say like, oh, this is a favorite of mine of the books I write. Because I think as an author, if you aren't constantly, when you don't get done with a book, if you don't think that's the best book I wrote, then you've done something wrong. You got to go back, right? But that story, and when Ross and Kai Kennicott nailed it. Oh, the audio is so freaking hot. Like you're gonna be like,
those two are my favorite narrators.
Well, Kai does a Greek accent for Selena, but her Russian for Obrecht is like amazing too. And Wen, of course, is just, she does
great male voices.
Oh, yeah.
That is when you find a narrator who can do both genders well, like that's my thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're having sexy time and that person is reading the voice badly, it just ruins it.
Yeah.
If a male does that, like a really bad female moan, and oh my god, I'm just like record scratch. I'm like, nope, yep, that's that one.
Oh yeah,
it's the worst. But I'm so excited. Well, again, like number 5 and number 6 were. Number 1, 5, and 6 are my favorite that I've read so far. But they're all like, we know this. And that's just when I'm reading them, and I'm like, I love them all. So.
Oh, and I still have to, and I have that. I need to hook that up, the link for you for the next one.
I'll take book 9 and 10.
I need to do that. I forgot.
Oh, well. I wait a couple days, and then I'm like, you said I could have that. Can I have that?
Yeah, I forgot. So you have to bug me again.
Yes, all the love for that. Great. Okay, well, we'll get started with some of these then. Because you were already telling me a little bit beforehand, but let's say it for the lovely people. So how did you get started with your writing journey, your first attempts, and your first book and everything?
Well, my first actual book, not as Maggie Cole, but as my actual real name, was I did write a finance book because I was in the finance field for 16 years and I owned my own business for 10. And then I sold it and we moved from Michigan to Florida. But my first fiction book, I have some hormone issues and I went and got testosterone pellets. And I started having this dream about this tall, 6'10", blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy named Tom Marco. Hence the rule. So I kept having this hot dream, and I was like, what the? And I'm like, I'm going to write it. And so I had no idea what I was doing. I still claim that I don't know what I'm doing. But I had no idea what I was doing. And I wrote it, and I kept writing it. Like, it kept evolving. And I probably know that book like word for word, like, because I read your first book is like, it takes the longest or it should take the longest to come out. Right. But then when I got done, I was like, oh, I need to write about Meg. And it just kept going. And then after I had written, when I was like on book 4, I'm like, I need to hire a coach and figure out how to do this and launch this. So I hired a coach. And he's like, well, you need 6 books in your series. And I'm like, why? And so then I started writing even like more rapidly. And I still had a full client load at the time because I was doing online marketing and things. But it just happened. Like it wasn't planned. I just had, and I went into my doctor, by the way. I went into my doctor and I'm like,
What are the side effects of this pill?
I'm like, well, the thing about pellets is they put them in, they put a little hole in your butt cheek and they stick them in and you kind of go up and then you go like this and then you come down. But they don't know. It's not like, well, your labs are this, so you have to put this amount in. It's like a guessing game. She's like, I'm like, all I'm thinking about is sex. And she's like this, my doctor was crazy, but I'm not going to tell you the stuff she said, but she was like, well, I said, I'm writing this book now. And anyways, the rest is history. I blame it on the testosterone pellets. But yes, I dreamed of Tom Marco and it just kind of started everything. And I wish I could have that dream again though. Can I just say that? Because it was hot.
Stephanie Meyer dreamed of a sparkly vampire and you dreamed of a hot 16.
Yeah. And I'm 6'1". I'm 6'1", so I'm always about the tall guys. You're never going to find a short hero. I doubt you will ever find a short hero in my books because I'm just all about the tall guys. So
do short men exist in like any romance novel? I mean, none of
do
them
they?
that I've read.
I don't know.
6 foot. Like
I don't know. I feel like I always have to state that they're tall, I always have to show it or something because it's like, to me, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there is.
I love it. I love it.
So how long ago was it when you wrote your first book, like from today?
So November will be 2 years that I've been publishing, and it was about a year before that when I started. So when I launched on November 3rd, 2 years, this November will be 2 years, I had like 2 books completely through editing, and I had another 4 that were going through editing at the same time. And I was and I had horrible editor issues, which was fun. And I was writing the first book of the It's Complicated series. So it was like totally insane. So it's, I would say, so I guess November will be about maybe 3 years since I started writing actually, and then 2 for publishing. Yeah.
That's incredible, honestly. Yeah. Like, I think that's so impressive because one of the things I love most about your books is how immersive they are. Like from like the very first page, like I just can get sucked in and it's just like I'm not available until I'm done. So I think that's incredibly impressive. That's so cool.
Well, thank you. I try. I have to say this too. I have an alpha team. So I have 2 women who are like diehard readers, and every chapter I write, they get it. And so they're giving me feedback, and if there's plot holes, and I'm saying to them, do I need to scrap this, or is this like crazy, or so and they're honest with me. So that helps, that I think that helps because it kind of stops me from going down maybe path I shouldn't sometimes.
So you send out each chapter, like when you write it to those 2, so you like kind of. Oh, okay. I've never heard of an author doing that before, so that's pretty interesting.
I think you have to have, if you're going to do it, you really have to have people that are going to give you feedback that's not always great, right? Yeah. But there's a lot of trust that goes into that too, because like editors, for instance. And I think every author that writes more than 1 book can tell you horror stories of editors. But editors, I've had editors before that tried to change my writing style. And I'm like, this is me. Like, I will never have a ghostwriter. Like, people are like, why are you spending all this time writing? Why don't you get a ghostwriter? Because my style of writing is different from other people's. And I believe that, well, plus I love it, but I believe that my readers are smart and they would know, they're going to know if somebody else is writing my work, but I have had editors that have tried to change that style. So you have to, there's a lot of trust that goes into it, I guess is what I'm saying. And, and they're super fans too, they love my work. If, it's just like an editor, you wouldn't find an editor that hates, if you're writing not clean romance and they're an editor that likes clean romance, you don't want them editing your books. And I had that happen on my first book where literally she was reading sex scenes and saying, I guess I'm not your reader. And before I gave her the book, I said, well, this is pretty steamy, is this what you read? And she lied basically because she wanted the job, but it was bad. It was bad because you're not getting the advice that you need.
Right. Wow. Yeah, that would. I mean, you asked that. She asked for it when you said that. So, I think this question kind of goes with that. Is what made you decide to indie publish, and what was that like getting started?
So I've never tried to go the traditional route. I've always been an entrepreneur from like the time I was born. I mean, I have a twin sister, and I used to sell her Girl Scout cookies for fun. So, I mean, I've always just been, I've always been an entrepreneur, and I've always made things work. And so for me, it wasn't really, I was looking also at what was going on in traditional publishing and the indie world. But I also knew if I wanted to really become an author and have this be my career, then I needed to go the self-publishing route, because it can literally take years and years if you do get a traditional deal. But even if you get a traditional deal, you're not always putting out there what you want to put out there. So for me, I was like, I'm going to go do me, because that's what I do best. Except now it's going to be under the Maggie Cole name. And I guess that's what, you know, I'm not scared of, you know, I guess some authors are really petrified of having to take everything on. And for me, yes, it can be overwhelming at times, but it doesn't scare me. It's like, okay, it's just part of, it's a business. I run it like a business. You know, you have to, unless you are just doing it as a hobby. And for those that are doing it as a hobby, that's okay. But I think you have to be very clear what it is your intentions are.
Yeah. That is true. Oh, this is from Chasing the Rain. Got some love for you.
Oh, thank you, Chasing the Rain.
All right. So this one I always love because I'm a nosy bitch. What does a typical day look like for you when you're in the heat of it?
Okay, so I can literally have days where, and this isn't good, you know, balance, what's that? I literally can have days where I get up and all of a sudden it's like 4:00 and I'm like, crap, I need to shower. And then I shower and then I'm continuing to write until it's time to go to bed. So I'm having like 14, 18-hour writing days. That's not good. It's not good for my hands. Hence my ergonomic keyboard I've gotten because when I write on my laptop, I've had to take breaks because of basically I've just typed too much. My keyboard on my laptop went out after, like within 3 months. I couldn't see the keys. That's how much I was writing. But a normal day, I mean, 1 to 2 chapters, you know, but for me, I don't have a set like schedule, which I really need to do, but I don't, because I might wake up and do graphics, right? Because I create graphics for our ads, graphics for social media. So I might wake up and do graphics. I might after that have to talk, you know, contact a narrator. I might, like today I got edits back, copy edits for the last book of Mafia Wars. So I was going through that and then sending it to the proof editor, right? Because there's all these, like, especially when you add on narration, you've got to really have your books done ahead of time if you want it to launch at the same time, which for me, because of the investment involved, I wouldn't do an audio if I can't do it when it's launching. So it's, you know, a lot of people are like, you're so far ahead. And I have a lot of author friends that are always writing to the very, like, that very last minute where their order is. And I can't put a book up for pre-order if it's not written. It can be at the editors, but it has to be written, because to me, that's just too much. Right. It's too much anxiety, I guess. Yeah. But to be ahead, you know, they're like, oh, you're so far ahead. But I always feel like I'm behind, actually. So again, my life is flexible. So, you know, I could be writing all day. If it's really flowing, I might just write. I try to write at least a chapter a day. I've not done a lot in the last few weeks, just because I'm going through a divorce. So I kind of took some time and did what I needed to do there. But there are a lot of days that I've literally, the time I woke up to the time I went to bed, I was writing. And that's why I have so many books out. But what I've done is not sustainable. I will be the first person to say it. I was doing bi-weekly releases at one point, and COVID was a big part of that. But it is not sustainable what I've done. And that's why, I mean, when I went to monthly releases, it was like, oh, this is going to be great. It's monthly. Then I added German translation and narration onto it. but now I'm like, okay, I think I'll be able to keep up with the monthly, but I might go to 6 weeks. I don't know, but I'm just trying to find for me now as an established author that has some sort of backlist, right. What does that look like for me? So I didn't really answer your question. I don't think. I think you wanted more of like a set, but I really don't. It's like I could do nothing. I could do a bunch of stuff that doesn't involve writing all day long, and then all of a sudden it's nighttime. I'm like, crap, I've got to get a chapter or two in. So
what does your team look like? I know you mentioned the alpha reader. Like, what's your scope of a team? I think that's really interesting to find out.
Okay, so I have, first of all, my Romance Addicts group, my Facebook group where I hang the most, just because that's the platform that I seem to know. I mean, I'm just the most comfortable with it. I have four women that are like super fans that I pay, and they're like the party starters. And one of those girls is also my PA, and she runs my Instagram, and she's amazing. I mean, they're all amazing. So they help me there. My husband runs the ads, and I just mentioned we're getting divorced, but he's going to continue to run the ads. We have not to get too personal, but we have a very amicable situation, and we're trying to we're not even using attorneys because we're trying not to become toxic. So we have a son, and that he's like our priority. So he will continue to run the ads. And then I have the 2 alpha readers, so they get it per chapter. And then it goes, after I'm done with it, it goes to my copy editor and then my proof editor. And then from there, it goes to my beta team. And my beta team looks for any other errors they find, or if there are any plot holes that didn't get caught through the pitch. And then I also have, of course, cover designers and things like that. But I create the graphics. Although my 4 gals that run my group and the one girl that's doing my Insta, they've started doing a lot of cool graphics too, which is nice. But my video trailers, all that, I do that. All my videos, I taught myself how to do that. So it's been kind of crazy, actually. I do a lot. And some of that down the road, maybe I'll find some other people to help do some of it. But
I mean, that's what you do when you own your own business, right? Like you learn how to do it, or you either do without, or you find someone to do it. But
right.
Wow, that's amazing. Quite the team.
Oh, and I have my German translation team too. So I have but they just fight in German about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, why just German? It's so interesting. Is there like history or anything?
No, the reason for German is because I'm in a pretty high level author group, and they all swear by the return on the German, the return on your investment. Because every book I translate, I'm paying, every time I narrate, I'm paying it like $5,000. Every time I translate, I'm paying like $5,000. So you've got to be able to make your money back when you do these, right? Yeah. So for some reason right now, the market, and again, Italy and France, we're probably going to go there next. However, I just kind of need to breathe for a minute. And I do have to say, my husband's the one that found the translation team, and they're great because you've got your translator and then you've got your proof editor, and they're just talking back and forth, fighting about stuff between them. So that's actually easy for me because I just get the final product, then I have to format it. Oh, I format my books. So then I have to format it. And it's like staring at Ghibli gook to me because I have no idea. And what I didn't know about German, this is what's crazy about German. So my titles don't just always translate literally. Right. Or if I do translate them, they mean something like totally weird and different. So even for like my next series that I'm spinning off of Mafia Wars, which will be Mafia Wars New York, those are one-word titles. And even the one-word titles, like it was like an hour Zoom meeting of me talking to my translation team about, okay, wait. And like Deviant Hacker, okay, they were going to name it like perverted hacker. I was like, I can't do that. And they were like, yeah, we were kind of wondering, like, I'm like, but there's no word for deviant. So like the closest is perverted. And I'm like, I just don't think I can name it perverted hacker. Like, unless you're telling me that everybody in Germany is going to go buy it, then maybe I'll reconsider, but perverted hacker just, yeah.
That takes it in a different direction.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe it. I know that there is some people I've had people who are like my viewers who say like, oh, I can't get that book in Germany. And not everyone reads English. Imagine that. Most people. And so that's kind of amazing that that's the one that they're like, there's a market for this here. And I'm sure that's different based on, what subgenre of romance you're in. So it's interesting to me that like Mafia.
I will tell you, Mafia is just a hotter genre. By hands down, I can spend way less money, make way more. But for me, it's fun. It's more fun to write right now. At least I'm enjoying it because I can kill people, I can cuss, I can have crazy sex and whatever I want. And I feel like I can just go to a darker place, a different place. I mean, I love the funny parts sometimes in my books too, but it's fun to I feel like I have more of a leeway to just do what I want with the story where, when I was writing Billionaire, there were times I held myself back. I feel like where now I'm not really holding myself back anymore. I'm like, I'm going for it, Yeah. So
I would agree. I mean, that's why I like that because I mean, I've said this multiple times. One of the biggest reasons I love Mafia is that my impetus for romance was historical romance. And there's so many parallels. But you can get darker and spicier. There's still like, must be a virgin when you get married. There's still arranged marriages. There's still all these things. And I like this, so.
That's true. I never thought about that before, the parallel between that. That's a good,
Well, when I first made my like Mafia romance breakdown, because people always like, break it down. I'm like, I don't know what to break down. But one of the things that does it for me is there's still that like archaic setup of like you're making deals between each other. You have alliances for your family. Like there can be arranged marriages from the time you're like 13 or something. And there's still sometimes the struggle for women to find their like independence in it and stuff like that. And I just like that stuff. I like that stuff a lot. So
I agree.
Yeah.
I can tell you, I read. Oh, really? Yeah. Oh my gosh, Chasing the Rain. Get it, girl.
Here's one from, I don't want to lose this. We'll jump to this. I have more questions, but as an author, what can be done to curtail piracy? That's a great question. That's a hot topic.
So what I'm going to tell you, it's a very hot topic. So in the author community, I see all day long people stressed out and pissed off and freaking out because they're like, my book's on this site. I know all my books are pirated. I mean, I know that they're out there. I try to ignore it, to be honest, because a lot of times, even with the what do they call it? The letter, the DN, not DNF, but the whatever it's called. Yes, it's like that. It's called something else, but even with that letter, most of the time these are people in like far away parts of the world that they're not complying with our laws, right? So it's never getting taken down, So for me, I just kind of chosen, I mean, if I blatantly know someone's stealing from me, I will go after them. However, there's so many sites out there that, I mean, there's companies that you can pay a lot of money to in order to go after those people, but half the time they're not taking them down either. So I think what you have to do, if you're an author, and I don't know if the person that asked this is an author, but and the first time I saw my book on a site, I have to tell you this, because it was Tom Marco. It was like the rule. It was my dream man, right? This man that's been in my dream, and they pirated it. I freaked out. I had only been published like a day, and I totally freaked out. And it took so much of my energy, oh no, because they get it, a lot of times they're getting it from ARCs, and I have ARC teams now and street teams and things, and we know who's getting our arcs, and then the bloggers, the PR firms that are using the bloggers, like they're using legit bloggers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But with that said, it's so easy to copy things digitally now that you can waste so much time and energy. You have to figure out, where do you really want your energy to go to? And for me, I want my energy to go to, you know, my story, my news stories, you know, my fans. I don't want it to go to the toxicity of, oh my God, someone, you know, because at the end of the day, like there isn't a lot we can do right now.
Right.
And I know that's not the answer everyone wants to hear, but
yeah. I think that's a great mindset, in the thought of like, if you focus on building your fans and building in a positive way, well, we're not going to be stealing from you. Like, I want you to succeed. So I was given a copy of a book, and I still bought it, and I bought the audio. Like, if you really love someone, you're going to help build you're going to help build that, you know. And
your true readers are not going to steal from you.
Right.
And that's the thing. If you're consistent in what you're delivering to your readers, as far as, and goes back to not having a ghostwriter, because my readers need to always get the Maggie Cole experience when they read a book. Okay. Now, that's not saying I can't write anything besides, I mean, I've written Billionaire, I've written Military, I've written a family saga. I mean, and I've written Mafia, right? So I can write different things, but they still need to get Maggie Cole when they pick up a Maggie Cole book, right? So if you're consistently doing that, and you're engaging with your readers, and you're delivering on time and things like that, then your readers are not going to, they're not going to go to, those people that are going to the pirated sites, they're never going to be people that are going to buy your book anyways.
Right.
They just aren't. So just, I mean, I don't know. And I know, trust me, I don't like my hard work going out there either, because I know how hard I work, but what am I going to do?
Right. Right. No, that's true. That's true. I think some of the stuff of that, like, anger too, came from some authors on TikTok, where the people are sharing the pirating links in their comments of their videos. That just, like, that frosts my cake. I'll tell you that, where I'm like, you literally come to their safe place where they're promoting their book and saying, like, here's where you can go steal it from them. Like,
the people that are doing that, they don't have morals. Yeah. They don't have ethics, and
they're just little shits. It's okay.
They are little shits. Thank you.
Little shits. He does not approve, everyone. He does not approve. Look at the mad face. Okay, let's go into some fun ones here, because I got some ones here. So, what was the romance that got you into reading romance for yourself, not for writing, but like you?
50 Shades, and I know a lot of people hate 50 Shades, but I loved 50 Shades. I did. I loved 50 Shades. Well, I should say this. I used to read when I was a kid, you know, Sweet Valley High, and then Sweet Valley Twins, Babysitter's Club to Sweet Valley Twins, and then my mom would get Danielle Steele books, so we would read that, and then I read like the whole V.C. Andrews, Flowers in the Attic, all of that. Yep. Nora Roberts, yes. Although Nora's not really steamy, I wouldn't say she's super steamy.
She's a gateway.
And Danielle Steele's kind of a gateway, I think. I think Danielle Steele's maybe a little bit steamier, or at least what I remember reading.
Yeah.
But then I was so involved with my financial career, I honestly wasn't reading a lot. I didn't have time. And then 50 Shades, and I remember I bought, like, everybody had read 50 Shades and I hadn't read it.
Yeah.
And I went to Target and I bought the trilogy. And I came home and told my husband, I think my son was like 2. And I said, you're watching Keegan all weekend. And he's like, what? I'm like, I'm reading. He's like, seriously? I'm like, oh yeah. And I held Keegan on my lap when he was napping and I was reading. And like, he's like, you're serious about this? I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't read a book in years. Oh, this is funny. So my parents, when we were kids, the lake they live on now, next door is like, there was like 5 little cabins and they used to rent it every year with their friends. So my sister and I, my twin sister and I, we had these 2 girls that were part of the family, a part of the friends, you know, and they were like our age. And my mom used to take us to town and we would buy books. Well, we bought Harlequin romances and our mom didn't know it. And one girl bought like Pet Sematary. Well, we were all passing the book around because we were, I think I don't know, 12 or something. We're like passing this Harlequin romance around. And my mom and another mom like caught us, and they made us like burn the books in the bonfire at night. Except the Pet Sematary girl, she got to keep Pet Sematary, and I was like, okay, this is screwy. But apparently, Pet Sematary was okay, but not the Harlequin romance. So, but 50 Shades was really what got me into. And I know some people don't like it, but I like 50 Shades, and I like the movies. It just to me is fun. It was fun.
It's a gateway.
I feel the same way. I read 50 Shades
Thank you.
I read the 50 Shades trilogy when I was 17. I was a senior in high school. My mom, she was like, "What book is that?" And I was like, "You want to read it?" She was like, "No, I don't really read." And I was like, "Okay."
I so guilty thing here. When I was a sophomore in college is when I read it, and it was when it was still only on the internet that I like read it. So I like read a version of it that it was you were allowed to like read it there. I guess. It was still free, so it wasn't Master of the Universe anymore, but it was called 50 Shades, and I read all of them in like kind of a pirated way, but they were free there, so like they weren't books yet, like where you could buy. So speaking.
Oh,
I'm back. Are you guys? She's like frozen. It's not just.
Yeah, she's frozen.
Okay. Crystal, do you like 50 Shades?
I actually have never read it, to be quite honest. Like I was reading romance, but I don't know why. I think when that came out, I was in a phase where I wasn't reading romance, and then I just never got around to it. So.
Wow. I feel like you should,
know,
just so you know what everyone's talking about.
I picked up Freed, which was the 6th book or whatever, which is just Christian Grey's point of view. I still have it. I'm still reading through it. But for some reason, I read those books before it was like the movies. And then my now fiance, he took me every Valentine's Day to see the movies because that was like our thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. They did come out at Valentine's Day.
Yeah. That was my thing. I said, you can't talk shit about these movies. I don't want to hear it for 24 hours after watching it. I don't want to hear your opinion. I just want to go watch it, and you're going to tell me it was a great movie, and then we can go have dinner. He was like, okay.
And maybe you'll get laid. Maybe you'll get laid if you're really good. You behave. She's back.
It was me this time. Oopsie.
Did your Wi-Fi cut out?
Yeah. Well, not my Wi-Fi, but my computer froze. So let me.
Oh, that's the worst.
Okay. That's why I have a camera. It's all good. Okay.
There you go.
There we go. While I reboot my camera. So sorry, what's happening now?
We were just talking 50 Shades.
Perfect. Okay.
And Crystal admitted she's never read them.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I feel like the ship might have sailed by now, but for Crystal
I don't
anyway.
know. I feel like she should read it. And then report back to me. Report back to me, Crystal.
I mean,
I want a
Crystal,
full
it's a
report.
really great video.
I finally read 50 Shades.
I know very little about it. I never saw the movies. It was just something that, I don't know, I think it was one of those things where it was so hyped that I was just like, stay far away. Like, I feel like that's
I think that she should read Savage Tracker first, and if she likes Savage Tracker, maybe she'll want to read 50 Shades. Because I think Albrecht does it better than Christian. Just
thank you. Albrecht
he's
does
not
do
much
it better.
Of a douche. Let's just be real. Let's be real. Christian's kind of an ass.
So yeah. So Pat. Sorry, this has my author proof thing, but Pat, the model, right? Pat's gonna actually read. I'm sending him a book, and he's gonna read an excerpt. And he's like, well, don't make it. I'm like, I sent it to him, and he hasn't told me yet if it's okay. So I think it's okay. But he's so funny because he's actually quite young. He's only like, I think 25 or something, but he doesn't look like, I mean, he's the perfect Obrecht on the cover. But yeah, so that's going to be interesting. And I wanted to give him a really dirty excerpt, but he said I couldn't give him too dirty. So.
That's fun.
Oh, she's up sideways.
I know. I gotta cut out this one.
You gotta love technical difficulties. Man, she's like fast.
I know. Well, I had them both up, so then it was yelling at each other. But anyway, okay. Here we go. See, here we go. People know what I mean.
Oh, Rex. Oh, Carrie's on. Hey, Carrie. Carrie's one of my alpha readers.
Oh,
Carrie. Yeah.
There was some comments I missed while I was doing that. So the hype about the movies turned me off from watching it. Fair enough.
yeah.
I'm listening to Freed. It was latest release. Yeah. They really drew that one out from coming too. I feel like it's been a long time since Darker came out. But
Yeah.
I mean, when you're making $1 bazillion, it's not like you have to rush.
True.
I think that 50 Shades was like got me into like loving billionaires because I love reading about that. And then that's in like 2014, 2015, it shifted to mafia people because they're billionaires and they have a ton of money and they're morally gray. And I was like, this is perfect. This is my shit. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I was going to say something before my brain just like short-circuited. So yeah, I have the greatest respect for 50 Shades of Grey, even though I have now read many stories that I would recommend before that one. I have, like, it'll always have that place of like dipping your toe into it. And now I just know that there are, there's always a better book. There's always a better book. Even if you have the best book ever, like there's always a new favorite,
There's always something.
Right. So let's see. Okay. Here we go. So now we're going to put the screw to you here. So who's your favorite hero or heroine?
Oh, no.
Yeah, here you go.
Can I do it by series, maybe? Oh,
Sure,
this is I didn't think I could name like so my all-in series, my first is always going to be Tom and Liv. Like they were my first. I dreamed about that man forever. So I mean, Tom and Liv hands down. But then it's so hard. Okay, so It's Complicated would be Dimitri and Anna, which led into was Wrapped in Perfection, which led into Mafia Wars. And when I wrote, it's kind of weird because I wrote that series, the first 4 books, and then I wrote Together We Stand, and then I wrote Behind Closed Doors, and I came back and wrote Sins of the Father and Wrapped in Perfection, and I had no clue I was moving into the Mafia world. I just created this. I created Dimitri and his brothers and the O'Malleys too. And I fell in love with this. I just fell in love with them. And so I was like, okay. But I added to those 2 books because I felt like it wasn't quite finished. And that series was doing really well. And I'm like, there's more there. Together We Stand. Oh, so Together We Stand, when I wrote that series, that was based on Anna Maria Island, where I lived for 5 years. And it's about a family really that's getting terrorized by a gang. And when I got done with that series, I thought I'm never going to write anything better than this. Like, it was kind of sad for me because I thought, oh my gosh, like, how am I going to top this ever? But I think my favorite couple from that one, oh gosh, this is so hard. I think it's Hudson and Lena. Behind Closed Doors. Oh my gosh. Risks of Temptation, the last book, Malin and Amelia. But I don't know. It's so hard, you guys. It's really hard for me, but probably that. Now, Mafia Wars. I want to talk about Mafia Wars in 2 different. I have to separate Mafia Wars between the Ivanovs and O'Malleys, okay?
Okay. That seems
Amy Fields is on. Amy's one of my party starters in the Romance Addicts. Hey, Amy. Amy Fields, hashtag never too much sex. I gave her that hashtag. Remember, I gave it to her. Okay. All right. So for the Ivanovs, hands like Selena and Obrecht and Savage Tracker, I just completely fell in love with these 2. And I feel like I could continue to write about them. I feel like if I was going to write a trilogy, it would have been about them, to be honest. I know. Jen's like, please. I know. I just totally fell in love with them. I felt like
I don't want you to fuck with them, so I'm fine if it's just the one book. Because if you wrote a trilogy, you'd have to fuck up what's
no. And the thing is, like, Selena was so severely traumatized, but she's such a strong character. There's 3 female characters that have always stood out to me the most, and it's Gabriella from Acts of Manipulation and Together We Stand. Oh my gosh. Sorry, I can name. I'm saying they're standing out, but okay. But Selena has been through so much, but she's so strong, And I think that's what I love writing about is women who really know how to rise from ashes, where it's like, okay, I'm going to get up and get back out there and I'm going to do it. Right. So, but Obrecht for Selena was just, he was just perfection. I mean, he showed her the way, really, you know? But then, okay. So for the O'Malleys, this is so hard, you guys, this is so hard, but I think it's going to be Finn and Brenna and Relentless Hunter.
Ooh,
their story.
Yeah,
their story. So Relentless Hunter is the longest book I've ever written. It spans across 20 some years, and it ties. I mean, so what you guys know from reading my books is that my books are very intertwined, right? So each book has the happily ever after for the couple, but there's this plot running through it.
Yeah.
And I don't plot before I write, very rarely. I mean, if I do, it's a quick outline. So I don't know why I'm putting certain things in the books. I'm writing, and then literally I'm going, like, as I was writing Relentless Hunter, I'm like, why did I write that? That's kind of like, and they're little pieces that you don't really think are a big deal. And then they end up being a big deal. So there's so many twists and turns in Relentless Hunter, but Finn and Brenna, I'm not going to say anything more because I don't want to spoil it, okay? But there's something but Finn and Brenna, their story is just, I don't know, did it for me. So very long answer to your question, and no, I cannot pick one favorite hero or heroine.
And then how about your favorite that you've read? Like who stands out to you as a fan? Who's your favorite couple that you've read? Or
so I have a lot of fun authors that I love. So I love Monster from Vanessa Waltz that just came out. I love that. I love Devil's Playground, the duet by Ashley Judd. Jude, did you guys read that? The Devil's Playground. Oh, you have to read. Oh, I listened to it. I didn't read that one. I listened to it.
Ashley Jade?
Ashley Jade. I'm sorry. Jeez.
Because yes, I have. No. Because yes, I have. I read that duet, so that's why I was like, wait.
Sorry. Katie Roberts. I love her Taboo series. Like I love, especially the first book. I just love the daddy, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Sophie.
Have you done any daddy stuff yet? Sorry.
Deviant Hacker. Deviant Hacker was my beta team just read it and they went flipping nuts. No, I know that's the book you're waiting on. That I'm like, I just need to create the link on BookFunnel for you.
Okay,
yeah,
it's after this. Oh my God, yes.
And I hadn't written a daddy book before, so I'm always kind of nervous when I'm writing something that's newer that I haven't done before. And the beta team went nuts. They went totally nuts. And I will tell you, chains are involved. So if that gets you off, I don't know, but
Still one of my favorite things is when Sergey buys all of the toys in pink. I'm just saying. That's how you do it. Like, let's make this sex room happy.
And that's the thing, like Sergey I love Sergey. Like he was so tormented, like as a child, and like just, I mean, his story was just, but
Sorry, sidetrack.
Other authors. Kristen Luciani, Sophie Lark, Shel Bliss, Alex Wolf. But I don't get to read as much, you guys. I don't get to read as much because I'm constantly writing. So that kind of sucks at times too. I will say that. Please to the Chains. Neverland Pixie. Got it, girl. I got you. Book 9. Deviant Hacker.
That's our girl Tiffany, who she's the one that I can spoil stuff for her, but she'll still be just as excited. So when I was reading Savage Tracker, I was like, oh my God, what happened? And when I read Unchosen Ruler, I was like, girl, there's a thing that happens. And she's just like,
are you talking about Haley? What Haley does?
Yeah. Fuck yes.
So Haley's been interesting to me. What readers have been begging for Haley's story, like begging. And it's funny because she's a kindergarten teacher and everyone thinks she's like just a complete freak. And so it's funny. So I hope I don't disappoint anybody. But yeah, so that'll be coming out next. And, Nolan's the one that really surprised my beta team because we don't know a lot about Nolan and then really book 6 is where you find out, but then Perfect Stranger, you know, he comes out, but Nolan, I mean, my beta team pretty much goes nuts on everything, but they were really, because again, we don't know as much about him. And then, you know, Killian, of course, everybody's kind of waiting for Killian too. It's like Liam and Killian are the two that they're really waiting for. So
Killian was a bad boy. I will say that.
Killian's story. So Brutal Defender is probably the funniest book I've ever written.
Yeah,
I would say. And which is funny because it's Mafia, but it's also Killian's such a crazy, he's a total crazy psychopath too, you know? So that was fun for me. And you're going to meet, so in Brutal Defender, you meet the Marinos, which is the first Italian family you're going to meet in Mafia Wars, New York. And you're going to see them in book 8, 9, and 10. So, because it's Ariana's brothers. So, yeah.
I was very excited about that.
Yeah. Oh, the Marinos? Yeah.
When I heard about the spin-off series, I was like,
yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, sorry. Crystal, did you have any questions for her? Do you have any questions for her? I could go forever, but I will talk the whole time. So my other guests will give me questions.
I'm curious to know, like, how do you figure, like, how, I don't know how to ask this. How do you get your couples to have such great chemistry? I feel like that's such a difficult thing to describe, but as a reader, like, you instantly recognize it. And I feel like each book that I've read, their chemistry has just been perfection. So I'm just curious if that's like a conscious process that you do, or if that just sort of is an organic development of the characters that you have already figured out.
It's definitely organic. I don't do a lot of planning before I start writing. I don't know why I'm very weird, because it's just like in my head, you know, and sometimes I don't know where I'm going, and I write, and then it's like, boom, I'm figuring stuff out, you know? But I will say sex scenes take the longest time for me to write. And some days I could literally work on a sex scene all day, and it annoys the hell out of me because I'm like, oh. But I'll go back over and over and over and over again on sex scenes, because I feel like the sex scenes are sometimes the most important scenes, because it's a romance, right?
Right.
And your hero and heroine have to connect, and you don't just want it to be this like porn scene. Like, you want it to be like, some of it's porn, whatever. But you want it, let's be real, but you want it to be like, you know, it's got to be more than just the act that's going on, right? There's this emotional stuff that's going on with it. So it's organic. I don't know how I do it. I just,
that's okay.
But I think a lot of it is because I reread it and rewrite it. So, like, I guess add to it so many times. And then again, I'm always sending it to my alpha team saying, is this hot or am I on crack? You know, because they'll tell me, you know, they'll tell me. So, yeah.
And I feel like that's really telling too, is because in those intimate scenes, there's always something in there that advances either their relationship or the story. Like, it unlocks this level between them that you wouldn't have if that scene wasn't done the way that it is. So I think that you handle that perfectly. Well,
thank you. That's a huge compliment. Thank you so much.
That's what we love most about romances, is the books that I rate a 6-star. They have more than just a good story. The sex also has to be progressing of the plot. That it's not just we're banging it out. It's because we are connecting on an emotional level here. And even if you start the book where it's not, you know, because that's a way to grow. Like, if it's a one-night stand that's happening, or it's a, you know, random meeting where it's getting really hot in the bathroom first. Like, there has to be that initial spark, so that it has something to grow off of with each time they come together. So I'd imagine that the further along in the relationship, the more pressure there is that scene too. So.
Well, and the other thing too is I always feel a lot of pressure of, is this hot? Because I don't want to write a sex scene that's not hot, right? And you're also, you know, I've written how many books have I written?
35.
36 books now, or I'm on the 36 or 37, something like that. And I, every time I'm thinking, okay, I don't want this to be anything like any other scene I've written. And I mean, I don't even know how many sex scenes are in those 30-some books, right? So seriously. So, it is a lot of that's maybe why it takes so long. I don't know.
It doesn't take so long, Maggie. You're writing how many books?
No, writing the sex scenes takes longer. Okay.
I'm like, it's not taking you that long.
You know what? I think part of it is too, I do think this is part of it, and I could be totally wrong, but I'm going to be 43 in December. So I'm 42. I started writing when I was 40. It's like I figured out what I want to do at 40, but I don't know how old are you guys? Do you mind saying?
I'm 40.
40?
28.
20. You're 28. You guys are young. Oh my gosh, you're babies. Okay. Okay, so
they're babies.
Crystal, tell me if you think this is right. I think when you hit like your upper 30s, 40s, I think, you're completely different than you were when you were in your 20s. Or you're 18. So you don't really give a F anymore about, you have confidence that you didn't used to have. You know what you want, what's hot and what's not. You're not scared to, say whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I think for me as a writer, because somebody said the other day, like, because there was a question in my group, like, what heroine of Maggie's is most like her? And somebody said all of her heroines have a piece of her. And they do. They really do, But I think maybe it's because I'm in my 40s that, I don't know, maybe it's the confidence I have now that I didn't when I was in my 20s and you girls might just be freaks in the sheets, whatever. And you're the same right now as I am versus then. But I'm just saying, and not that it was bad back then, but like, it's just different. Things are different, and Crystal knows what I'm talking about. Yeah.
I totally
like
do.
40, I'm embracing 40. I'm totally embracing 40.
That's totally how I feel. Yeah. Like I definitely feel like it was almost like this year, when this year turned over and I knew I was turning 40, I was like, I let go of just so much inhibitions, and I'm just like, because you're like, I don't care anymore. I don't give a flying. They don't matter. Exactly.
Yeah.
You either like me or you don't, and it's either. So I don't know. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
I wonder if because this is one of the questions that we got, and I think that kind of plays into it. Do you feel like what you said is kind of like this, like why you decided to write older, and like not really any virgins in sight in the Mafia Wars? I was very happy about that. So anyway,
I've only written one virgin, and that was Kiss of Redemption, and I felt perfect for that story because it wasn't a virgin way, normal virgin way was, if that makes sense. Virgin book, I guess I should say. To me, I've written younger characters. I don't know, something about writing about at least men that are in their 40s or women that are older, like Sergei and Cora, for instance. She's the cougar. I'm getting divorced. I've said if anything ever happened to my husband, I would be a cougar. Maybe I will be a cougar. I don't know. We've yet to see, but silver foxes are hot too. So let's wait and see. But however, did I just say that on public YouTube, public television, public YouTube?
I say it all the time. So
you know what? Because
on this one.
I think you're at a stage where it's like, you know what? Like, let's just have fun and see what happens, right? Yeah. But for me, I don't know. Like writing about writing about somebody in high school is just not, like when I wrote Together We Stand, the baby of the family, Connor, I had to write him last so I could age him to I think he was 26 or something by the time I aged him, by the series aged, because I was like, I don't want to write about him as a 20-year-old. I don't know. And what 20-year-old really knows what the hell they're doing? Can we just be
Right.
honest?
None. Zero. They don't
Can we
know.
be honest? Like maybe by the time
They're so unrealistic. That bad boy
Yeah.
doesn't know what he's doing with the clit.
he does. No, he doesn't. Oh no, or his tongue.
He
Thank
doesn't
you.
know.
No, and I mean, and it's not as fun, and it's not. I mean, so this is the thing. Like, if you're gonna, I just want a man that knows what the hell he's doing, and maybe by the time they're 25, 26, like by then they should know what they're doing a little bit better. But you know what I'm saying? I don't know. I feel like all books, not all, but so many books I read they're younger. Like, and I'm just like, where are the people like where I'm at right now? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I loved that so much about yes, I love that. I'm so glad you're doing that.
Well, and I will say this too, like Relentless Hunter starts 23 years earlier because it has to. So like they're like 25 and 22, which is fine. But then by the time they're done, by the time it catches up, they're in their 40s, right? And by the time their book ends, they're in their 50s, which, so it's not that I can't write about the younger, but there's a more maturity there, I guess, when one of the characters, at least, they don't both have to, but at least one of the characters is older, whether it's the female or the male, Because like I said, I don't discriminate.
Right.
You can hang, let's hang.
It's honest to goodness. It's one of the main selling points I've used for this book for so many of my friends, because I was like, guess what? There's no virgins in this series and everybody's over 30. Have a nice time. Because in Mafia, well, as I said, like, I think particularly because the 5 women at the beginning of this series, they're all like normies, none of them are like involved. So they weren't kept by their fathers to be pure until they can be used for an arranged marriage, which I'm not throwing shade on. One of my favorite Mafia series ever. That's the plot of it. But it just made it so refreshing because that's not how they're usually set up. So it really makes it stand out as a series for
Thank you.
For people who,
Yeah. Well, and I think too, life is complicated, right? I mean, and we kind of have these like we change, right? As we get older, we change, and relationships change, things like that. So I feel like there's a lot more baggage as well when you're in your when you have a character that's in his 40s, or she is, or I don't know. Just for me, it makes it a little more interesting too, to write about, to go a little deeper.
Yeah.
I gotta run. This was delightful. You guys
so good meeting you.
Thank you
like
so
face
much.
to
It was
face.
wonderful to meet you.
Yeah.
Love
fun.
y'all.
Bye.
Okay, Tori, what you got? You got any questions?
I did, and I said bye to Crystal. I was like, let me hold on to this question so I don't forget. And then I was like, oh, okay. Hang on, wait.
You think about it. We'll just sit here.
Well, it was going to the older characters, so I'm glad you mentioned that, because I've read Mafia for years. Like I got into it when it was 2014, 2015. So I've read a lot of the older Mafia romances, specifically on KU. And then I've recently just started getting back into them, kind of like the newer authors that, weren't around then. And one thing you always see is that they're so much younger. And I am 26, I'm about to be 27. But I'm at the point now where I don't even want to read new adult. I can't deal with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can deal with someone in their 20s because I'm in their 20s, so usually I can relate. But if you go past 20, 19, 18, it just gets kind of annoying to me.
Right.
So that was one thing when Jen was Ruthless Stranger. I think he's in his early 40s, and then the female is late 30s, basically. They're around 40. And I was like, I don't think I've ever read a Mafia romance like that.
Really?
Yeah, where both characters were that.
Wow.
I've read age gap where one's in their 20s. And
It's always an age gap. Always.
Yeah, but both characters being older is something I've never read before. And if I have, it didn't really stand out to me. So it doesn't really matter. But it was just something different. And I was like, this is really cool. Considering I'm someone who loves the traditional Mafia. So when you said you have a new spinoff of New York, I love Italian Mafia. That's something I guess because I started with that, so it's always a thing. But Russians are my second favorite. And then Irish, really they're really close. So I was loving it. And when Jen was they're older and she isn't involved, I was like, okay.
Well, so for Mafia Wars New York, the Marinos there's twins. So there's Dante and Gianni, and they're in their 40s. And then there's Massimo, and he's like, I think 38. And then Tristano's the youngest, but he's still like 30, I don't know, 35 or something like that. So, and the series will age, of course. So, and I don't know the rest of, I don't know how many books I'll write in that series or whatever, but yeah, so they are older. I mean, they're keeping, I guess, with the 40, theme, 30 to 40 theme, you know.
Well,
it's just something refreshing.
I'm glad you guys like that. Thank you for telling me that. Yeah.
Well, the other thing I'd say too is that, I mean, you're talking to two people in their 20s, but I know the vast majority of my viewers are women more Crystal's age or your age. So I'm sure a lot of your viewers that is the viewership. And I mean, I can tell from the comments popping up over here that it's like, you know, we're getting older, but the romances still stay where they're in their 20s. And it's like, it's nice to read somewhere. It's like they've lived, because that's the thing. Yeah. So many of the men in here, they've been brokenhearted by someone before. So you're starting with that. And the women, they've been divorced or they've been in bad relationships. Like that's more what it's like. Like that's more what it's like. And it's kind of, and this is weird to say too, it's kind of nice for the trauma to just be life trauma and not they were like assaulted or raped or this bad thing happened to them. Yes. Which, I mean, okay, that is the case for some people coming up. But in some others, it's literally like you had a shitty husband. Guess what? That happened.
Right.
It doesn't always have to be that something horrible. Like, you can have trust issues without it having to have been a horrible thing. You know, sometimes life just sucks and it's tough to trust again. And we'd like to have our billionaire mafia man come in and make it all better for us.
That's right.
Oh, here's a good one. What is the best book for beginners to start with for you? I mean, obviously.
Oh man. If you want to read the series that led into Mafia Wars, so you know Dimitri and Anna's story, that would be It's Complicated, which is a Chicago billionaires series. All In is a New York billionaires story or series. Together We Stand as a family saga, and again, there's a gang terrorizing them, and it's kind of dark at times. And that will, the Brooks family will always have like this special place in my heart. And then Behind Closed Doors is, there's just nothing like it out there. It's these former military studs that are international rescue heroes, and it starts off in Costa Rica and it goes all over South America and then the world actually. And there's this global conspiracy, and these women are broken. Like they are severely broken. They rescue them from this dirt pit, and it's just a crazy series. I can't even, it's hard to even market at times Behind Closed Doors because it doesn't really fit in anywhere, you know?
Right.
So depending on what kind of genre you want to read, that, you know, I hope that answers.
Like what level of like dark is that one for it? Because like
Behind
I read the Deliver series by Chicago, which is like really dark.
So dark, I feel like everybody has a different definition of dark. Okay. And as authors, we struggle with that too, because a lot of people think dark means that the hero's raping the heroine and it's okay, you know, and that's not that, to me, that's rape. Dark to me is, you know, a lot of these women have been like, so behind closed doors, these women have been abused. But I'm not showing like graphically that part, but there, you know, there's a lot of violence. To me, a dark book, you know, there's violence. Like my All In series, which was a New York billionaire series, I didn't have like violence and stuff in it, you know, it wasn't killing people. And, you know, where pretty much all my other series have, you know, except It's Complicated. All the rest, well, no, there's one book that does, I guess. But all the, you know, the violence and the killing people and things like that. And a lot of the dark, you know, people that have trigger warnings, if there's trigger warnings in the book, people consider it dark. But everybody, I mean, you guys probably you might have a totally different definition than what I have of dark.
Right.
I mean, Pepper Winters is really dark, right? Like Pepper Winters, you know?
And I mean, I agree with you. I'm more for me, it's when there's like the graphic depictions when we're like presently living with it, right?
Yeah.
Is the difference between of like, let's say someone's having flashback nightmares or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, of like the darkest series I've ever read to date for me is Pam Godwin's Deliver series, because they are going to sex traffic places and going undercover as those people to save people or something like that.
Right.
And you are in it with them. Like, heroes have to commit assault to save people, like things like
right.
that.
Like
But
Willow Winter's Broken.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, to me, that's the darkest stuff ever. But then you have people who are, you know, they think Katie Robert is dark. And I want to be
Which
like,
is, how is Katie Roberts dark?
she's erotic, but she's not dark.
Oh, you know who I love as an author too is Jade West.
Yes.
Love Jade West.
I love her.
Love her. I just got into her books lately, and really love her.
Bait was my first rape fantasy book I ever read, and it has marked me forever.
Which one? I haven't read that one. What's it called?
It's called Bait.
Okay, I haven't read that yet.
Yeah, that's a literally, she goes online to try to find someone to fake rape her. And the guy who finds her, he used to do it constructively with his wife. Like, they had that dynamic. And so he's like, you can't go online to find someone to fake rape you. You will be murdered. So then he agrees to be her person, and then they fall.
Gotcha.
One of those, like, let me save you from a fake attacker by being that attacker for you. But Jade West always makes me cry with her, like, her erotic romances make me cry.
Yeah, they're good.
That's when it's good. Anyway.
Yep.
That's a great question. We were already, like, going through a lot of these, because that's what one of my questions too is your favorite. But we've kind of touched on that. Yep. You guys who are watching, if you want to start putting questions in, I only have like 1 or 2 left of mine, so we'll maybe do that for another like 15 minutes. We'll go to like 7:30 my time, and that's probably enough to see in our faces tonight. So since you've written so many different tropes, you have one that is kind of a favorite. And I just mean of the trope, I don't mean like the book, like you don't have to pick the book or what that, but like, what's kind of your favorite one?
Oh, it depends on, honestly, I mean, this is, you're asking all these hard questions.
I told you it would be hard.
You know what? I really like enemies to lovers because I like the angst of it. You know, I know some people don't like angst, but I like that. But then I love friends to, I mean, oh God, it's just so hard. It's so hard. But I love age gap romances. I do. I don't know why. I really like writing them. And I only kind of started getting into writing those like in the Mafia wars, I think. And it kind of happened where I wasn't really thinking. I've been really bad at writing to market, where you actually like figure out what's really hot at the moment and you write towards that trope. And that's been like, I've just been really bad at that. So it honestly, it depends on the characters and what's happening in my mind, to be honest. I'm such like, if you ask me what's my favorite song, I don't have a favorite song or favorite type of music, because I listen to all sorts of types of music. Like, I'm one of those annoying people, you know what I'm saying? Where I can't pinpoint, like, favorites are hard for me, you know? I know that doesn't really answer your question.
Would you ever write anything poly at all?
I would possibly, yeah.
I mean, this is self-serving completely, but MMF Mafia is kind of my sick little game, so just putting that out there.
That would be hot. That would be hot.
I have a question I just thought of.
Sure.
So this is more pertaining just to the Mafia Wars series, mostly because that's only what I've read so far by you. What is like the one, like what character came to you first? Like, I know every author has their different writing process and how they think of things. Like, some people plot it out like to a T with the characters and the plot and everything. So I didn't know if there were like one particular scene that was in your head first that made you kind of like, I want to expand this and I want to do multiple families and, you know, write, because it's a commitment to write all of those books and plan everything and have a spin-off and everything like that.
Honestly, when I wrote Wrapped in Perfection, and I don't know why I made Dimitri have brothers. I don't know why Boris was best friends with Killian. or he was dating Nora. Like, I don't know why, because again, I don't plot. I'm not like, I've tried to be a plotter and I'm just not. But that, writing that story, I could feel it in my blood. Like I could feel that I had to write about these characters. And I stopped after that book and I wrote Judge Me Not, my novella, for Christmas, because I told my romance addicts I wanted to do that as like a Christmas gift to them. And I gave away like, I don't know how many hundreds of free copies or whatever. But I was dying to write that family. I don't know. And maybe because like Together We Stand, the family saga I wrote, the Brooks family there's something about writing families that I love. Like I love how the O'Malleys and the Ivanovs, like they fight and they argue, but they have each other's back. And it's weird. It's a weird alliance. And you've got the Ivanovs who really aren't mafia, but they're involved in the mafia. And then you have O'Malleys who are true, because the series is going to shift, right? When we get to O'Malleys. The O'Malleys are a true crime family. Like there's no like, we're trying to be good people. Like they're trying to be good people, but not the way the Ivanovs are trying to be good people. But the Ivanovs have become mafia, but they still don't want to admit that they're mafias. So it's an interesting dynamic, but they have, and you're going to, even through book 10, Maxim's going to come back in and you're going to see a little bit of the Ivanovs from 20 some years ago when everything started happening. Everything's going to tie together, but you see these connections, and there's something about the family. And I think what I really missed when I wrote Wrapped in Perfection is I really missed writing about the family dynamic, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, it does. I was just curious because like every author will have like a different answer for, each of the series. And it's always interesting to see, because some authors think like in their heads, it's these characters that are talking to them and they need to get their story out on the page because they won't show up in their heads. And other authors are like, no, I created them. This is how I want them to be.
No, mine are in my head. They just come out, and like, it's weird because I know the book I'm writing right now, the first book of Mafia Wars New York, I know what happens. It's in my head, but I've just the last few weeks haven't been writing, but about a third of it's done, but it's serious. It's all in my head. And I'm like, I need to get it down on paper or, on the typewriter or the computer, I guess. But yeah.
Crazy. I will say too, having read 3 of the O'Malleys, I found it very relieving for them to just like be mafia and just be free with it, because I shared my first, I was like, why will these stupid Ivanovs just not talk about their issues?
Because they're trying so hard not to be mafia, like they don't want to, they have a garage where they kill people. Like they don't want to admit that but they really truly are mafia because their businesses are legit. But in all reality, they are mafia now, right? And they've become that, and they detest it, So, yeah, but no, and that's the thing. There's a shift, and I love how there's a shift into the O'Malley family, and there'll be a different shift when we go into Mafia Wars New York with the Marinos. Like they, it's going to be different.
They're much more bunched up. But okay, this was a fun one. We like this. Because
well, okay, so does everybody know that he's a hardcore porn star? Like not just a fan's only,
I've told everyone.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that when I picked him, which is fine. But I messaged the photographer and said, does he have an Instagram? Can I be on his? So I'm on his personal Instagram, which it's closed. Like he let me into it. And then somebody was like, oh, who is he? I'm like, well, he's kind of a private person. Like, I can't share, I don't want to share his Instagram. And somebody's like, dude, it's like, his porn name, it's Quentin James, right? And I was like, who's that? And then I went on Twitter and saw who Quentin James is. And I'm like, oh, okay. So then I messaged the photographer and said, you need to find me some more porn stars because this is doing really well. But so book models. So there's some very good photographers that do exclusive photos. And Mafia Wars is the first series I did that has exclusive photos. The rest of my pictures were stock photos. And so now I'm doing exclusive. So Yeah, so there's different photographers. Instagram, so there's a couple of cherries that I've popped, cover cherries. So Liam O'Malley's cover, and the guy's name is actually Liam. He's in England. I found him on Instagram, and I was like, I want that picture. And then he hooked me up with a photographer, and I took it. And he's never been on a book, so I popped his cover cherry. Yep. Shane Cromer, who is Deviant Hacker, so Declan, he's in the UK as well. And I messaged him, and I had him go up to my photographer in Scotland. And then he sent me like 2,000 photos of Shane in the buff and everything. I mean, I told Shane, I know your body parts better than you do by now. Cause he had me go through all 2,000 photos to pick that cover photo. Right. But Shane, and then my friend Shell Bliss, I was like, hey, here's this guy you need to look. Well, she picked a photo after of Shane, and her book came out before mine. But I said, listen, I popped his cover cherry. And I told Shane that. I'm like, I popped your cover cherry. Like, I'm claiming it. I'm owning it. So there's two. So Liam O'Malley's book, Unchosen Ruler, and Deviant Hacker for Declan O'Malley. I popped their cover cherry. I'm very proud of that. But the rest, yeah, we find, so Instagram, my alpha and beta teams or some of my readers will say, hey, this guy's really hot. And sometimes it works out. They have photographers that are willing to sell them. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes the photographers are on crack. Like they want to try to charge you like 10 grand a picture, which I'm like, you're on crack. Next. However, I mean, so it's just a process, but there's some great photographers out there, and there's some great cover artists too, because when you get the picture, like even my pictures so far for Mafia Wars New York, the cover designer did an amazing job, and the pictures look similar, but she did a lot of work, and it's amazing.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
That's fun. That's a fun process. I like hearing about that. Yeah. Well, do you guys have any other questions for Maggie while we have her here? It looks like her pumpkin's about to go down the icy.
Oh, I know. It's the sun setting.
It's probably be closed, but yeah, this is so much fun. I was just so happy now that I got approached by your PA, because you never know. Like I've told my friends this, like I've been in the book community, like being in this for 3.5 years. But I used to read exclusively fantasy and YA before that I would talk about. Like I've always read romance, but I would just be like, yeah, and I read some Julia Quinn, or I read this, and like not really talk about it. And so I still get solicited by YA authors and fantasy. And I'm like, have you looked at a video past 2019? I don't really read this anymore. Like there's a couple authors that I still read their YA because I'm a fan. So I still get solicited by that, right? But when I got sent the cover of this, because I knew who that was, I was like, and it's Mafia? Okay, I'll check it out. Because, of course, the cover model like tells me what the book is about. But that's why they're so important. I mean, this is such a striking cover.
Thank you.
His eyes and his, like, when Mr. Lark and Sophie Lark were on the channel, they both were like, what is it about a cover model they were like quizzing us about what we like, and I was like, well, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, number one, it's if you're like, do you feel the attraction for it, and number two is like, what's the vibe that's coming off it? I feel like this is a pretty classic Mafia cover.
I think eyes are super important for cover models. Like seeing their eyes, having them look at you, like, and that's the other problem that's so hard. Like I kind of hate looking for cover photos, to be honest, because
I also love it.
Oh gosh, he's from Canada. That's where I got him. And
the lion on here. I love it.
Yeah, I put that on. But it's been very hard to find. It's sometimes hard to find them in the right position. So they might have a great shot, but they're looking this way or that way, or and it's something about them looking straight at you. I don't know. It just does it for me. So
I mean, it works too. Yeah. Well, this was wonderful. Thanks.
Well, thank you for having me.
We'll go ahead and end this. If you just want to wait before you hop off, we'll have you hop off after that. But
okay.
Everybody, thank you so much for joining. This was so much fun, for coming to our author hangout. Tori, thank you for coming along and hanging out. And yeah, we just appreciate it so much. And I mean, we should promo the book too. If I haven't talked about it enough, Savage Tracker comes out at midnight tonight. It's already out in our other places in the world.
Savage.
Go, you want to read that one? I promise you guys want to read that one so much. It's the best. So thanks so much, everybody.
Bye.